My first glimpse of my son, having only a few minutes prior being taken from my wife's body via emergency C-section, was not the heart-melting, joyous moment I had been told to expect my whole life. I entered the room to be greeted with this view. My son lying on one side of the room, face up and quite still. A row of doctors and nurses wearing masks and operating gowns, silver trays and tables, sterile white and blue sheets. My wife lying motionless and unconscious on the other side of the room. I stood at the door of the operating room, surrounded by nurses. I managed half a smile, as I can feel some tension in the room. Looking at my son, I say quietly, more to myself than anyone, "Hey there, cutie." I don't really know what to say or do. I look over at the row of masked faces in front of me. One of the doctors then proceeds to list some features of my son's body, gently touching each part of him as she speaks. 6 toes on one foot. Another 6 toes, the other foot. 6 fingers on one hand, the other hand clenched tightly closed. 1 ear, the other is severely deformed. A hole in his head. Part of his scalp is missing. I can't really see his hands and feet, but the top of his head is all red. Redder than it should be. It looks bad. I take in all of this as though it's a list of arbitrary facts. I comprehend and accept it all, just looking and nodding. The doctor asks, "Do you have any questions?" My mind struggles to process what I've been told. My only thought is of my wife, my companion in life for the past 7 years, my love. "Is my wife okay?" I ask. "Yes," the doctor says. "Okay, that's all." The doctor gestures towards the door behind me. A nurse leads me out of the room. I turn and follow her in a daze, feeling nothing. My only thought is, my son is broken. This thought echoes through my mind. Back in the waiting room, I entered a survival mode that would carry me through the months ahead. My focus completely narrowed to just the facts in front of me. Support from my family absolutely poured in, but I declined all of their offers of help, feeling both overwhelmed and honestly, strangely at peace. I knew what I had to do, and anything else, even if it made me more comfortable, was a distraction. When the nurse asked if I wanted to accompany my son to a larger hospital, I initially hesitated, afraid to go without my wife. But deep down, I knew I couldn't leave my son alone. I knew what I couldn't not do. I made the decision to go with him, marking the start of a journey that would test me in ways I never anticipated. The ambulance ride was surreal. The constant blare of the siren, a reminder of the gravity of the situation. My son's birth, a moment that should be full of joy, was an emergency. At the NICU, surrounded by incubators and monitors, I finally saw my son up close. He was tiny, fragile, and kind of perfect. I didn't see his disabilities. I didn't see his imperfections. I stood there with him and stroked his feet gently, overwhelmed at my first contact with him. Speaking to the doctor, I learned that he would need to stay here for months. But I didn't really believe this. A big part of me knew that he would be different. He would surprise everyone with how strong he really was. After all, he was my son. He'd show them. They'd all see. I left the NICU and started the long walk back to my wife in hospital, a few pictures and a note from the doctor in hand. I recorded a voice message for my mum. It was then, for the first time, that I cried.
He's sick, Mum. He's really sick. I don't know if he'll be okay or not.
When I finally reached my wife, we cried together, holding hands and looking at the photos of our beautiful new son. She was just grateful that he was alive, and honestly, so was I. Neither of us had any idea of the fight ahead, both for him and for us. The challenges that we would all face, or the profound changes our lives would undergo. This was the beginning of our new life, our trisomy life, and there was so much more to come.